Welcome to a new episode of the coffee subscription tasting videos, where I am tasting the coffees that we're sending out to all our subscribers in the beginning of February 2023. Yes, you heard it right. We are already in 2023 and February is coming along. Behind me, my team is actually preparing all the envelopes that we're sending out the coffees. So if you don't know what the coffee subscription is, you can go to our website, check it out. It means that we choose, or I actually choose, coffees that we send out to our subscribers around the world every first Wednesday of the month. So that means you can subscribe to 1 bag up to 6 bags, and normally we send out 3 different coffees. So if you subscribe to 2 coffees, you get 2 different coffees. If you subscribe to 3, you get 3 different coffees. And if you subscribe to 4, you will get 2 bags of 1 coffee, and so on and so on. However, this month we're actually doing a little bit of a spring cleaning, as we call it, because we have a few lots of coffee that are quite small, and we don't have enough to send out to all of you. So on the 3rd coffee we're sending out, we're actually randomizing a little bit and sending out 3 different coffees. So some of you will get 1 coffee, another one will get another coffee, and so on. Bear in mind, all these coffees are really nice. I really like them, of course, because I have bought them, and they are from producers that we've been working with for many, many years. So some of you might recognize some of these coffees, but they are new harvests, so that means you will be able to taste something new anyway. Cool, let's get started. We are tasting today 5 different coffees as a cup tasting. And if you don't know what a cup tasting is, it means we are preparing coffee and water in the cup and then using a spoon to taste. And it's pretty easy to set up. It's pretty educational as well if you want to learn how to taste coffee. It's much more fun doing it this way, where you can compare one coffee to another. It's so much easier to describe flavor when you have something to compare with. If you only subscribe to 1 bag, you can still do this. Just put any other coffee on the table and then you have something to compare with. It could be instant coffee, it could be supermarket coffee, it could be Robusta coffee. I don't care, as long as it's a different coffee than the one you have currently received in your mailbox. But to start it off, we are going to taste the first coffee we're sending out to all our subscribers. We'll get this coffee, and it's the Nacimiento farm from Honduras and SL28 cultivar, which normally is grown in Kenya and Tanzania, but have been planted in Central America many years ago, and we managed to get some seeds from Jobneel, the farmer of Nacimiento, and he planted it on top of his farm. We have been waiting quite a long time to get this coffee. We have had it before, but this year we actually got quite a big volume because the trees are growing, they're becoming bigger and they are producing more coffee. And to my surprise, it is not as good as last year, I have to say, because last year it was spectacular. We didn't have a lot of it, but it was really, really good. This year, the coffees from this region are a little bit more muted. And reports say that, I've spoken to the exporter and also Jobneel, the farmer, they say that the season last year was not great. It means the coffee is a natural product. Quality will vary from year to year, and some years are tougher than others. They were struggling with a lot of wind and also difficulties of getting enough workers. So the quality, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's really good coffee, but it isn't as spectacular as it was last year. Having said that, it's still a very nice and fruity coffee. So if you don't know that it's SL28 and you just taste this coffee compared to another Honduran coffee, you would say, wow, this is a really nice and fruity coffee. So sometimes we need to have a little bit broader perspective when we taste coffees in order to really appreciate the quality of it. This is not going to taste like an SL28 from Kenya, but it's an SL28 from Honduras, and it is very, very different from the Bourbons and Pacas and Lempiras and Ihcafe Noventas that you find in Honduras. Are you still with me? Let's taste. We have made a video on how to set up a cupping, so you can check that in the link below. It's pretty easy. You just need a grinder, coffee beans, some nice water, and a water kettle, and that's it. And a spoon to slurp from. Ooh. So the SL28 from Nacimiento is, as I said, I think we planted it 8 years ago. And normally it's quite intense and winey, meaning you get the same sensation of drinking red wine or white wine or something like that. It sometimes has this kind of black tea flavor and a little bit of florals and a little bit of blackcurrant, a little bit of, what do you call it? Red berries, like blueberries and stuff like that. It still has a little bit of all those flavors, but very, very subtle compared to last year. So I get quite a nice juicy mouthfeel, like it's quite salivating. It's quite refreshing as well. The fruitiness is there. It's quite, what do you call, subtle. And very nice, refreshing aftertaste. With a little bit of this kind of black tea finish that you get when you drink black tea. Not over-extracted though, but... So these plants are planted at the top of Jobneel's farm, Finca Nacimiento. The altitude is around 1700 meters, which means it's quite cold, and in this mountain where he's located, they get a little mist from the big lake, Lake Yoyo, I think it's called, every afternoon. So it's very cloudy there. He doesn't have any shade trees because basically there's shade all the time because of the clouds. And right above it is another farm called Cielito Lindo, which is his father's farm, and a forest reserve. So there's nothing more on top of that mountain than these farms. And it's very rocky. So when you walk the farm, it's kind of full of rocks and a little bit of coffee trees here and there. So this is quite a high altitude coffee from Honduras. From the region of Santa Barbara, which is by many considered the best region in Honduras. And I think they have the evidence to show they constantly are in top 10. Most of the coffees in the Cup of Excellence in Honduras are from Santa Barbara region. Cool, I hope you really enjoy that coffee. I think compared to the Pacas variety from the same farm, it is a little bit more fruity and a little bit more intense and quite enjoyable and nice kind of juicy coffee that I really enjoy drinking. Now, if you subscribe to 2 bags or more, you will also get another cultivar from Jobneel's dad's farm. Jobneel's dad's name is Extraberto, and he's actually the one who made me come to Honduras in the first place. So we bought this coffee in 2008 at the Cup of Excellence auction. And the year after, I wanted to go and visit the farmer. And when I came there, he was nowhere to be found, but we went to his son's farm, Nacimiento, and met with Jobneel. And it turns out that Jobneel does most of the work for both of their farms, because Extraberto is very, very old. He's over 80 years old, and his farm is way on the top of the mountain, and it's very, very difficult to walk there. Believe me, I've tried many times, and it is a real struggle. You need donkeys to bring the coffee down, because there are no roads, basically. It's just rocks and pebbles and clay. So it's very, very steep, and that's why Jobneel is taking care of the farm for his dad. This second coffee is a really intense and very, very fruity coffee with a little bit of herbalness. And the reason for this, it's because it's a Catimor variety. It's called Ihcafe 90, which is a selection of Catimor that was made or selected in Honduras by Ihcafe. So IH stands for Ihcafe. 90 is probably the number of the selection, or when it was released, I don't know. Catimors are a mix between Hybrido de Timor and Caturra. And Hybrido de Timor is a mix of Robusta and Arabica. So that means you have a little bit of Robusta genetics, which means the plants are more resistant against leaf rust. In the later years, this variety has proven not to be resistant anymore, but it's very, very popular in Honduras, and most coffee buyers don't like this coffee because it tends to be very herbal, very sort of bell pepper flavor, very harsh in the finish, and not very elegant. However, this particular lot and this particular farm and coffee has proven to taste really, really good for many, many years. I think the best placement he had in Cup of Excellence was 4th place, and that was back in 2008. I think he got 5th place in 2009, and I bought it both times. And I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the altitude or whatever it is. This coffee is very, very fruity and very winey and quite elegant. We also used this coffee to win the Nordic Roaster Championship in 2019. So it is for sure a coffee that a lot of people like. I believe it's very intense in flavor because of high altitude, so you have very slow maturation. But also it's picked quite late in the harvest because it's high altitude. And that means when they ferment the coffee, they need more time because it's very cold climate. So you can actually taste a little bit of this kind of ferment-like flavor. It's a bit winey, And for those of you who are very sensitive to naturals and honey processed coffees, you might believe that this is a honey processed coffee, but it's not, it's a washed coffee. It's really, really elegant, I think. Has more of this kind of Sauvignon Blanc kind of acidity, this white wine acidity. Lots of red fruit flavor again, and maybe some stone fruit. And the kind of herbalness that you normally get in a Catimor, it is there, but it's not very dominant like it normally is. So here is the fruit flavor that dominates. It's quite elegant and nice and bright and acidic and refreshing coffee. So these coffees are more or less from the same farm, except this is the very high end of the farm and this is just slightly below it, and two different cultivars. Cultivars meaning the type of Arabica tree that they're growing. Cool. The third coffee is also from the same farmer, but Jobneel has bought a small plot of land in a different area in the Santa Barbara mountain called El Sauce. And they also produce very, very nice coffees. And this is actually the first harvest that we are buying from Jobneel from this area. He didn't know what to name the farm, so when Marit and Marit is our roaster team leader, when we went there in 2019 or 2020 it was, before the pandemic, he asked if we could give the farm a name, and we were joking around and say, hey, we're Vikings from Norway, let's call it El Vikingo. Hence, now it's named El Vikingo. The coffee is actually a geisha cultivar, so from a lot of you who are following us, most coffee people enjoy drinking geisha coffees. This is the very first picking of these geisha trees, so it's not going to be anywhere near as intense as the Caballero geisha or a Panama geisha, but you can still taste floral flavors, tea-like flavors, and a little bit of citrus. Let's taste. Very light and elegant coffee, especially compared to this one. This has much more texture and body, and also the SL28. That tastes like really like red wine and black tea. And the geisha basically tastes like Earl Grey tea. Bergamot, which is a citrus fruit, maybe a little bit of jasmine, and very elegant. Quite enjoyable, very delicate. We only had 120 kilos. We had to do some test roast. The first two batches were not so good. So that means we're sending out 60 kilos to the subscribers. So that means not everyone will get this if you subscribe to 3 bags or more. So some of you will get the El Vikingo geisha, and hopefully in the future we'll get a little bit more of this coffee, and hopefully it will be even more intense, because in my experience at least, the geisha needs some time to establish itself before it can really give you those like wow flavors. But this has great potential, and I thought it would be a great fun to show it to our subscribers and what they can expect in the coming years. Third coffee, we're moving to another country. Fourth coffee, actually. I forget how to count. So the fourth coffee, which we will send out to some of our 3 and more subscribers, is a different cultivar called Sudan Rumé from the farm Los Pirineos in El Salvador. And this is the first time we have this cultivar, and I have been cupping it for 3 years and waiting to buy it because it's quite special, very, very different from any other coffees that we've had. And yeah, I think most of you will really enjoy this. It reminds me of eating Christmas cake because it has this kind of baking spice and a little bit of citrus peel. And some kind of nice herbalness that is not like the bell pepper herbalness, but it's a different kind of herbalness. I can't really pinpoint what it is. But it's a really, really interesting coffee. Also quite delicate, quite sweet, but it has this kind of baking spice, a little bit of raisin maybe, and citrus peel for sure. Sudan Rumé, it's in the name, it's probably from Sudan. It's not a very common cultivar. I know the world champion Sasa Sestic used it to win his world champion routine in, I think it was in Seattle. So this is quite a rare coffee and grown in Los Pirineos, the farm in El Salvador that we have been buying from for many years. And we also got very, very little of this coffee this year, so that's why we can't send it out to everyone, but some of you will get this coffee as well. Compared to the geisha, geisha is very mild and kind of tea-like. Sudan Rumé has this kind of chocolatey, milk chocolatey like base, like really, yeah, I call it base. More body, I would say, and more of this kind of spiciness. Very interesting coffee. Now, to make sure we have enough coffee to send out to everyone, we had to add Batian cultivar from the Caballero family. So we're back in Honduras, further south than Nacimiento, so in the town of Marcala, or near Marcala. Marisabel and Moises, you probably know, we have sent out their coffees many times. And we have sent out the Batian before, but I think this has developed a little bit. So it's the same coffee we sent out maybe 4 months ago, but it has developed a little bit. And from being like more of a citrusy coffee, it also has now a little bit more kind of appley flavors. I think the acidity and the kind of fruit is a little bit more open and mature. Really, really nice and juicy coffee. Batian is a hybrid cultivar, just like the Ihcafe 90, but it's developed in Kenya. So they used like SL28, Ruiru 11, and kind of based it on that. And they have launched many different lines of Batian, and the Caballeros have one, I think. And this is grown in Honduras, so another Kenyan cultivar grown in Honduras. Quite juicy. I wouldn't say it's heavy, but it's more like mouth coating and very lengthy aftertaste. You get a little bit of citrus peel as well, I think, in the finish, but more like a red apple kind of juiciness. A little bit of red berries as well, but mixed with this kind of nice bitterness that you get from orange peel and stuff like that. And maybe a touch floral, I have to be honest. Cool. So a lot of coffees to go through. We will send out a newsletter to all the subscribers, of course. So if you're wondering about the facts of these coffees, we'll send that out as well, and you can see that on the screen. As I said, we're sending out the first 2 coffees to 1 and 2 bag subscribers, and the 3 last ones will go to people who subscribe to 3 bags or more, in addition to the first 2 ones. So if you wonder how to sign up for our subscription, go to our website and you can sign up. It's a recurring one, so you can pause it and stop it at any time. And make sure to follow these videos, because this is where we taste and talk about the coffees, and I hope you enjoy tasting along as well. And join us for the next month's video, because we have some nice coffees then as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.